many might have failed beneath the bitterness of their trial had they not found a friend. Okay, you got a friend in me. All right. Aircraft cabin heaters. It's a hot subject, so let's talk about it. Okay, nobody found that funny at all. Oh, that was such a good joke. That was a Job joke, wasn't it? Okay, great. You missed it. This is a surprise face. Okay, cabin heater system. And then we have combustion heaters, and we have heater inspection practices. Understanding how each of the heaters operate and the dangers involved with a combustion heater. All right, cabin heater. Bleed air is by far the most efficient way to heat the cabin. But not everybody has a turbine on their airplane. I know, you're surprised. Not everyone can afford a turbine on their airplane, okay? So we can't all use air cycle and engine bleed air to mix together. So sometimes we use electric heating. Well, the problem with electric heating is the bill that comes along with it, right? So electric heating is very expensive because of the high current draw, and we can't keep up with it. You imagine if you started popping circuit breakers because you turned electric heat on and now you lost all your lights and radios and navs? Oh, bummer. Nope, no heat for you. So we don't like to use electric heating. So instead, we decide we're going to use exhaust heating. Okay? We use exhaust shroud heating on small reciprocating engines. We'll use air across the outside of a shroud around the outside of a muffler. Okay? What is a muffler? What's a muffler?
Muffles the engine.
Okay, to muffle the sound of the engine, correct. On the outside of the muffler shroud will be on the outside of the muffler will be a shroud. On the outside of that shroud, of a muffler, this would be a 520 or a 470 muffler. On the outside of that, it looks pretty cool with those little bolts sticking out, doesn't it? Pretty gnarly. Actually, it is a horrible source of cracks. Those little knobs like that, because of the cool air on the outside and the hot air inside, they will crack all the time right there, okay? And so, as you begin to look at this, you notice it has a baffle in there. If you're a motorcycle guy, what do you do with the baffles? You drill them out, right? We want louder and prouder, okay? So, on this one, the heat then is expelled and cold air from outside goes around the shroud. It doesn't mix with it, but it goes around the outside of this inside a shroud that covers this. So you'll have a stainless steel shroud right here, okay? And the shroud will sit like this. Cool air will come around here, okay? And then we use some of that. Another duct will go back to the cabin, and it will heat the cabin with heated ram air across the exhaust pipe. I almost said exhausted air one time. It was like, no, it's not exhausted air. Because what happens if we use exhausted air? You don't wake back up. Okay. All right. All right. Did I already show you scratch and sniffs? Little scratch and sniffs. Okay. The
CO.
Yeah. They call them scratch and sniff. Yeah. Scratch and sniff. All right. So that's why you have that. It's because these do fail. Okay. If you do a hot start on a fuel-injected engine, where does that fuel go? Yeah, it'll puddle up in here, and that's normally where you get the cracks. Okay? These bad boys run about $3 to $4 grand. Okay?
You said if you do a hot start.
Hot start, yeah.
Failed start?
So what?
Failed hot start?
No. Even a hot start, because you're overfueling. Okay? Or if you turn the mags off, at a higher RPM, like 1,000, 1,200, I hate that more than anything. I know people do it, and it's a bad practice, but people do it a lot, is they'll turn the mags off just to check them, but that fuel gets dumped in exhaust pipes, If it's after flight, that's normally what weakens these, okay? That's what weakens your exhaust pipes. Yep.
So all those little knobs are connected to that black cylinder in the middle. What's that made of?
Monel, Inconel, and then you have a stainless cover on it.
So you said you don't like it when people check the mags post-flight?
Why? Is because where's the fuel go? If you do it fast enough, fine, but if you do it like more than about 2 seconds, where's the fuel go? On your exhaust pipe, that's why we call it cracks.
Well, I mean, you gotta do it before the engine shuts down.
I know they do that, yeah. Which, like I said, we've changed 6 of these, 6 mufflers here at SMAT in the last 3 years.
So you're saying it cracks because it cools it or because it doesn't?
Fuel, hot fuel.
Oh, hot fuel, okay.
Yeah. But it is a common practice, if you guys see that, if you do have an update from people that do that, check the muffler. More than likely, within just a short time, they'll be cracked, okay? Because you're dropping hot fuel on a hot muffler. I mean, cold fuel on a hot muffler.
Yeah, okay, so you could say hot fuel on a hot muffler.
Cold fuel on a hot muffler, but then there was no ignition in the cylinder, therefore when it hits it, she reignites. Okay? It's super, I've seen it time and time again. A telltale sign of this is when you're doing your skeet and scat. Why are they called that? Ask Christina, I don't know. Anyway, on your skeet and scat, the little orange hoses, you'll see a white residue. If you see a white residue, that is exhaust heat expelling, and you'll start to see it around the clamps, which means that muffler has a crack in it somewhere. Usually around the seams or right in here or around the bolt holes. If you see a white residue, that exhausted, heated exhaust air inside the muffler is getting to the cold air, and it will create a white soot. Yes, sir?
I think you're talking about the scat that goes to the cabin.
To the cabin heat. So you have a scat out to your induction for ram air. It catches it, shoves it around here. Then you have another duct on the other side that then goes to the cabin heat. So, hey, anyway, I'm telling you, as a mechanic, I've been in these multiple times where you guys will overfuel. They'll get a pop, 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 pop. Not tell you, but they'll say, man, I'm getting a little bit of an exhaust smell in the cabin. Go to do an inspection, it has a little white residual. Or as I've said, we have several, that if it's a common practice to do a mag check, if it's run very long with mags off, that fuel has to go somewhere, and if it's on a hot exhaust, it'll normally crack it within just usually within a year or so. Okay. All right. Exhaust shroud heater. Okay. This is kind of what it looks like from a side view if you're trying to visualize. So you have your ram air. It does not mix. This picture is not the greatest because it makes people think that they mix together. If they mix together, the pilot doesn't come back. Make sense? Okay, so it actually goes around here. Okay, the colors are terrible. It should be blue, shouldn't it? It should be blue because ram air is not normally hot unless you're in Florida. Okay, it's true. Why'd you roll your eyes? It's true. Okay, all right, and then it comes around here. Instead of getting overboard, if we want cabin to the cabin, then the little flapper valve will open to the cabin for cabin heat. Okay, all right. Here is a Cherokee 6 model. Okay. Yes, sir.
How hot did that come at you?
Your exhaust. What's your EGT right now?
Thousands of degrees.
Don't say thousands.
13.
At thousands, your cylinders are done.
Yeah.
Yeah. 1450 is the upper mark of the yellow line on a turbocharged engine is before red line. Okay, so that heated air, depending on your airspeed and all these other situations, and outside ambient temperature outside, could be hitting you at 100 degrees or so. So that's why the valve is not open or closed. You can regulate how much heat comes in and out.
Is that just like a butterfly valve?
Yeah, flapper valve, butterfly, whatever you call it. It's not, sometimes they're just a flapper where it's just one side of it's hinged. Butterfly is usually hinged in the middle, that's what makes it butterfly. If you wanna be technical, sorry, we're being snooty technical. Okay. Alright. So this is cabin heat. Notice they route it back to the people in the back too on these Cherokees. Pretty nifty little ductwork from the it's an IO 540. So 6 cylinders. All right, there's another picture of the shroud. Okay, you see what I see? You see? So, ooh, let's do visuals so that way you don't ask me what does ACM stand for? Okay, all right, great. We haven't talked about that, have we?
No.
Okay. So we have hot air that comes in here. We have hot air that goes out right here. Everybody okay with that? What is that air called? Exhaust. And where does the exhaust come from? From the engine cylinder. Okay? Now, what is this? So you have, oh, Ryan, you almost messed everyone up. You have ram air in. Where does that air actually enter the system from? Usually.
Filters.
Yeah. Sometimes at the filter, sometimes it's filtered, sometimes it's right at the cowling. Okay, could just be a fresh air inlet on the cowling, depending on where it's at. But it's usually right out there on the cowling somewhere. Okay. So then we get fresh air ductwork over here on the cowling, comes into here, goes that way, and it's going in. Okay. Then it spends a little time inside here. Then it decides it's going to escape, but it's not exhaust, so we're going to add a little blue line with it, so they can be buddies. Okay? Because it's a little warmer than it was. All right, everybody got it now? That's how a shroud works. Is this efficient? Very efficient. Does it cost you extra money in fuel? No. That's why recip people love it. Okay? All right. We don't have the money, especially in aviation, where a cylinder costs you 20. What are they putting on cylinders right now? They're $2,400 or $2,600 a cylinder right now. Okay, and that's before maintenance. That's just to buy it, to get it in your hand. Yes, sir.
Has anyone tried to just take hot air from the cowling and bring it in? It seems like this is pretty dangerous if it fails. So, has anyone tried to do something different that you know?
I have to say yes. Do I know of anyone? No. But I have to say that yes. I'm sure there has. Okay.
What about maybe floating thing where it's not, like the air's not coming into contact with the exhaust?
All right. So visual. What should you do as a mechanic? Visually remove the shroud. Hey, on your O's and P's if they give you an exhaust shroud inspection, that is part of airframe. Wait, but it's exhaust. That's powerful. That's right. But not the heating side of it. Look at the muffler. If they say you have a cabin heat inspection, you take the little screws out and open the shroud like this. You take a mirror, because it's down in the bells. What does Dean say? In honor of Dean, we'll say his word. And down in the belly of the well, bells of the well, belly of the beast. Okay. So then you take a mirror and flashlight, and with your calibrated eyeball, you'll look around to look for a white residue. That's the first dead giveaway, is a white residue right here on a crack. You'll see where the air has been touching each other because it's cold and hot. And it will give a white residue right here. Okay, that is a failed airframe inspection, but you need a power plant mechanic to change this thing. Don't you love it? So, airframer can look at it and say, yep, it's bad. Power plant says, yep, you pay me to change it.
How does the white, powder form? Is that hot, may I theorize?
Sure.
Is it hot and cold air mixing, creating condensation, creating?
That's right. They're touching, yep. And I think you had to step out that time, but it's where you have exhaust air is meeting that ram air. And it'll create a white soot that's just sticking, almost a white powder sticking on wherever there's a crack. That's the first dead giveaway.
Is that, wouldn't be minerals in the water, because it's condensing from the air. It's just various precipitate and
Yeah,
various
and then it's just
fluids and-
basically sticking on the outside of that ink canal, and so that material is.
Okay.
All right, pressure test it. So you can pressure test it with just a simple vacuum cleaner. Vacuum cleaner also has what, an outlet on it, right? You guys remember that? Is it really a vacuum? No, it's called an air mover. So you can hook the outlet side of a vacuum cleaner. You can put that bad boy. Don't put duct tape on your muffler. But on the end of the tailpipe, exhaust pipe, you can put that on there. Somehow, without duct tape, Johnny, without duct tape, get the pipe to stick in the exhaust pipe, and then at 3 PSI, 2.5, 3 PSI, somewhere in there, doesn't have to be real high. Shop vacs rated at 3 PSI. Soap and water the muffler and see if it bubbles out right here. So you have the pipe hooked here, and you're going to spray soap and water, and if you start to see bubbles, you have air escaping from here to here. Okay? That would be the second form test, called a pressure test. Yes?
What page of AC-43 is that?
If it's not, it is in there. Let's see, it is worded in an exhaust. They even give you the picture of the exhaust.
We could use a shop vac.
Yeah. Yeah, and even Cessna, like, for example, the Centurion Cessna 210 will tell you. It says pressure, 3 PSI of pressure. So, okay, well, great. Shop vac runs at 2.5 to 3. That's perfect. Okay. No, you cannot do shop air. I don't know how in the world you do that. You need a huge amount of volume with low pressure. All right, here's another picture of scratch and sniffs, or the expensive ones, if you like the expensive one, CO2 or carbon monoxide detector. Okay? All right, bigger and better things. This is not budget friendly. It's actually it's mechanically friendly and high maintenance. Is a combustion heater. So much fun. So much fun. It's where the excitement takes place. Okay, this is a combustion heater known to the mechanic to be our nemesis because there's plenty of ADs on these bad boys right here. Okay, so this is the internal life of a combustion heater. So just as the exhaust, we have a shroud. At the end of it, we have a fan. And we're going to blow ram air across here. Okay, you can actually see through, forget the white residue, that was from the sodium chlorate that decided to go everywhere. So, anyway, you'll have a fan right here on this end. I'm so sorry. It's on this end. Yes, I'm sorry. It's on this end. So you'll have a fan right here on this end. And as the fan takes ram air, as you're going through the air, it'll blow ram air across here. Okay? This is a fuel inlet. Fuel comes in and ignites inside the inner chamber, not on the outer chamber. It ignites in here, and then the inner chamber, you can actually see that there is exhausted. It will exhaust that combustion air out, and then it will come out. Where does it come out on this one? Cancer cans. Yeah, here it is. So then it comes out, once it enters the combustion chamber, then the air will expel to the outer chamber and then come out right here. Okay? It runs on avgas. It's hooked to your fuel system. Yes, what's your question?
The inspection is in paragraph 849D is what you're talking about.
849 in your new books. Yes.
And
perfect.
is that white?
Sodium chlorate.
That's
Sodium chlorate.
crack?
No, it's from the candle.
The oxygen candle that exploded inside my tote behind me.
Okay, I missed the step while I was reading.
No problem. All right, so we have air coming in here. You have your fuels lit off, and then it ignites. So now we actually have a standing combustion fire inside here. Okay? We don't take that air. We allow air to go through here, which then is surrounded by hot air. And then it's sent out to the cabin. And then this air is exhausted. Okay? We'll be able to look at that on the 414 momentarily and see that combustion heater. Okay? But the problem is we have cold air and hot and hot. What do you think's a problem here? Oh yeah, crack all through here. These are beautiful wells, but they still crack. Okay? They'll crack. And there's so many ADs on these. There's actually a company over near Holland, Michigan, that all they do is combustion heaters for recip engine aircraft. They're a repair facility from the FAA that all they do is this. Okay? And so if you're like Randall and you enjoy TIGging all day, that may be your cup of tea, where you look at it and you say, yep, and you'll just weld and weld and weld and weld all that back up all the time, yep.
Those welders, do they have to be A&Ps or I know the repair shop has to be certified through the FAA, but they
Yeah.
don't have to have an A&P.
That's right. Do you know there's Poplar Grove engines? He has only 40% of his employees are A&Ps. The rest of them overhauling engines are all under what? His repair station license. Yeah. So he has 60% of his employees are not even A&Ps, and they're still overhauling engines for aviation.
Why does he keep the A&Ps assigned? I feel like we don't.
Because they can't install it and test it. Who has to sign the engine off? The A&P if they install it. So even though they overhaul the engine, they're not allowed to remove or reinstall. So he says the non-A&Ps work for less than A&Ps. So. Okay, pretty cool how a combustion heater works. It runs on avgas. Problem with these is it's right beside your oxygen bottle. Our 414 came out of annual with a fuel leak. Got here, right off the bat, I saw blue residue. What in the world? Okay. Now, what are all these googly gadgets up here? Well, I'm so glad you asked. We actually have a fan source to keep air moving inside the chamber. We want to keep the combustion moving out because avgas, when it ignites, it is very, very volatile on lots of BTUs. But we've got to get that air moving through the stinking chamber. So we've got to take air. So they will have an opening right here of air to go through the chamber as we ignite it. Yes, sir?
Which chamber? The inner chamber?
The inner chamber, where the combustion happens. So we're taking air from ram air outside, pushing it through to heat it, to send it to the pilot, co-pilot, make them happy. But we don't want to mix that air, so we take other air, other outside air, and then we send it through here, or through a fan. This is a motor, motor. Through the fan, and then push that combustion cycle through here so it will surround here. Because if we do, we're just going to get a back pressure. So we got to force it out before it goes out the exhaust. Yes, sir.
So the ram air is higher pressure than the pressurization in the aircraft. What makes it go into the aircraft instead of just,
The fact that you're screaming through the air at 200 miles an hour. Yes.
so it's
It's impact air.
Does it have igniters or is it a constant burn?
It does have an igniter, and it also has a pressure. This is a coil. Ooh. So when we light it off in just a second, keep your hands away from it. It is very unforgiving. I told you that my automotive, because I went to automotive school before A&P school, automotive school instructor were sitting there playing with a 78 Camaro, and he touched the coil pack, and he turned as white as a ghost. We ran him to the hospital, and he had electrical poison for 5 days, where he touched the coil. It's 20,000 volt. Boom.
What is electrical poison?
Well, I'm not even gonna try to explain it to you. All I know is that, man, he was one sick puppy. So, anyway, it has a pressure. So if the pressure gets too high, it will shut the combustion heater off. If the pressure gets too low, the same thing. Okay, if we have a leak, it's supposed to the pressure saying, wait, we have pressure that is leaving the system somewhere. If it's leaking out somewhere, if we have a leak, it's supposed to shut the system down as well. On the side of it is a thermostat. There used to be, how many of you in your car still have a stinking knob? You turn the knob, okay? That's so cool. Anyway, there were still knobs back in the day. Even one of ours out here still has a knob that you turn the knob and set the temperature and it will blow, okay? Now they get to a digital thermostat, so it just kicks on the combustion heater. It runs just like your house does up till it gets to a certain temp, and then boom. Whoa. But the combustion heater could pull as much as 7 or 8 gallons an hour from your fuel system. So you'll be nice and toasty, but your fuel burn goes way down. Pilots, how many of you learned about doing fuel calculation as your combustion heater's running? You did. Fuel calculation with the combustion heater running? Very few flight schools teach that. They don't, most of the time we say, okay, Cessna 172, 9 gallons an hour, okay? Okay, great. You don't have to worry about combustion heater. But when you get to 340, 414 or so, now you gotta start factoring in that extra, the extra fuel burner right up there in the front, right?
What's benefit of a combustion heater besides, we would usually just power them on when we're on the ground before we cook off. Then after that, you just use the exhaust cup.
You can unless you don't have one like the 414 doesn't.
So that's
What's the benefit of this bad boy right here? Oh man, it gets hot right now. Now, it's blowing holes through the ozone layer, but man, it's hot.
But once you take off, there's not as much of it.
Well, at 40,000 feet or 30,000 feet, it'd be really nice to have really hot heat. Yeah. And it's got to heat it up a long way. Ram air is coming through there, if it's negative 20.
So what's the benefit of that over putting an exhaust shroud heater on, say, the 414?
Sure, so 414 exhaust shroud, that would have to go a very, very long way to get into the cabin. So,
I don't want to keep on my one question, but how does it inside the combustion? Does it have like an injector, or what? Does it atomize the fuel and it's just stirring around? It's a constant burn.
it's one of those times that I say, let's go outside and watch one burn. Let's go. David, there you go. David.
Oh wait, this is yeah. This was the fan at the end. It's just
So it is injected.
The interesting thing is the 414, it has pressurized air. So I wonder if that's
straight down.
Oh, that's what I was saying. That's what I was asking. I never heard that before. I just
That's
heard the
insane.
initial shock.
You know what's crazy though? Is if you do it wrong, you built a bomb. Like you literally built a bomb. You built a container and then you put fire in it. So it's crazy. That's crazy.
It's crazy to me that we spend so much time making sure all of the tolerances for our engines are right, and we have whole classes on it, and for these that also burn fuel right in front of us, we just go, oh yeah, they just
But it's not
light
as
on
rapid.
fire and it
It's
works.
kind of like
Yeah.
much slow.
They're cancer cannons.
Yeah, what if you get a crack in your
Do you get fired?
Well, that's why he said they have an automatic switch to turn them off if they do that.
starting to go through school here.
Yeah,
And I'm like, oh, if he could do it, I could do it.
right, yep, yep.
So my problem is I get those stories and I didn't quite make it.
Yeah, yeah.
So I've had 2 or 3 people that are coming through and they're like, "You're the reason." I was like, no, oh, what? You sure on this? Let's
Who
see,
were
that's-
you, headed with?
So I was with Samaritan Aviation.
Okay,
My
okay,
wife
yep.
took a medication that she was on after some postpartum.
Yep.
And turns out she has bipolar. We didn't know it.
Yeah.
So it was an upper, and she was upper, and it just so anyway, we're good in the States. We're just not as resilient.
Yep.
So anyway, so I'm still with Samaritan. I do about 600 hours of recruiting.
Okay.
Actually, at some point, might contact you guys, pilot type training
Yep.
for our guys, advanced training on both wings of the in the LLC.
Yeah.
But I help manage the 175. Brad Olson, was he here when you were here? Or was that a little bit after you?
Bill after me.
Okay, so he flew 175 in Alaska and then instructed here for 3 years.
Okay,
His plane is still here. He works for Western Michigan University. So I'm kind of the contact point for it. So if you're commercial instrument rated, so basically if you went through the flight program or rate outside. So this year we got 5 guys checked out, and basically they pay a suggested $35 an hour and put fuel in. And it's a fixed pitch prop, big bush tires.
Sure.
It flies like a 206.
Sure.
So it's a huge blessing when they help with maintenance. So
Okay.
I'm kind of the contact point, and the interesting part with that is if I lean into it a little, we're looking at, hey, do we want to, I don't know if you full blown call it TE prep.
Mhm.
Not like trying to compete with SMATs.
oh, yeah,
But like outside SMATs, it's these guys.
Yep.
So at some point, if you guys do have a standardized like TE or TE prep, I'd love to chat or get some document.
well, we don't yet, so.
Yeah, well, and
We
that's
send
why I
'em-
heard
we
you
send
say
'em
that.
Here. Yeah, we send them to Moody. There's a guy, trying to think of his name, down in North Carolina.
Yeah.
I think
There's
Compass.
one more out in
I think
Washington.
Compass does it pretty well. Mata has been known to do it okay.
So my
Well-
question would end up being, if at some point you
Yeah.
had a list of where you're like,
Yeah.
hey, here's where the guys are normally weak.
Yeah.
So I mean, I went through SMAT's program, but I never went through Jarvis TE.
Right.
Right? My Samaritan TE was right after COVID. I basically flew Mark Palm to some events in the float plane.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, you look
Looks good. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Which actually was probably one of the better TEs, because I had to basically get them places, make all the decisions we did.
Yep. It's like operational.
It was an operational TE.
Yep. Yeah, which is missing. I never wanted to get into the training environment because I feel like it's so different. I think I can coach. Actually,
We got a short extension cord from you.
I just have this thing about, a training environment, I have to like switch my brain.
Yeah.
Because to me, it's so different. Which I always get pushed back. They're like, well, you should be the same. I'm like, but it's not. So, and I'm like, if I had an engine fire, that would be the end of my day. Instead, you're gonna let me shake it off for about 30 seconds, and then you're gonna give me another failure. So, like,
Yeah.
this is not normal. And they're like, well, I guess maybe. But
That's a good point. It's like, gonna be long enough for you want a little cord.
for safety's sake, we'll put another cord.
In the training environment. There you go. So anyway, I'll let you get
Okay.
going. I think Nick said I'm supposed to be out by the helicopter in case the guy needs anything.
Sure.
And I'm grading papers
Yeah.
and stuff like that. So your HDMI